Thanks for joining us for part 3 of this Vancouver Island adventure. In the last episode, we flew from Vanderhoof to Qualicum Beach, which was my first flight as a pilot over salt water. We landed, and by pure coincidence, Magnus and Ronell landed 2 minutes behind us. We got a tour of the airport and the flying club building, and were invited to their vacation home for supper. After a great visit, we were dropped off at the airport, where we set up our tent and turned in for some much-needed sleep. We had a good sleep and woke up the next morning refreshed, although a bit sore from the inadequacy of our 1-inch thick sleeping pads. Since I don't have any footage of this part of our day, I'll show you scenes from the rest of the day while I tell you a little story on what happened next. As we crawled out of our tent, the flying club hangar was bustling with activity. A student was briefing a lesson with their instructor, and someone was setting up a bunch of chairs, a coffee pot, and laying out some fresh baked goods and cookies. I discovered it was the weekly Flying Club men's morning coffee. They invited us to join them, and thus our day began. I was chatting with a very witty and entertaining ultralight pilot named Dave, telling him our story, and when I got to the part about there being no rental cars or hotels, he said without hesitation, "Oh, I'll get you a car. We've got one we don't use in the summer." At the end of the meeting, I gave Dave my number, and he said, "I'll call you in an hour." An hour later, my phone rang, and it was Dave. He said, "I'm picking you up for lunch." Dave showed up a few minutes later, brought us to his home to meet his wife, and showed us his forest green Subaru Forester that would end up being our wheels for the next 10 days. We were extremely grateful, and as we sat down to visit, they had another surprise in store for us. Their home, which they just had built, had a separate suite they used for visiting family. They graciously offered it to us, and with our bones still a little sore from the previous night, we gratefully accepted. Things were happening fast, and we couldn't believe our good fortune. We took Dave and his wife out for lunch and got to know them a little better. We took the Subaru back to the airport, grabbed our gear, and settled into our new digs in a state of amazement at what had just happened. As we're flying more and more, we're quickly learning that the pilot community is very helpful and kind to one another. As you can see by this footage, we visited a few local beaches and got to know the area a bit. It's a new day, and we notice that there's an airport on Texada Island that looks like it's within walking distance of a beach. If you know anything about this channel, you'll know that we love beaches. So our plan today is to fire up X-Ray Zulu Sierra and head out for a day of flying, hiking, and beaching. We'll take off from Qualicum, fly south to Nanaimo, and back up to Qualicum to gain some altitude. We'll then cross the water over to the southeast end of the island and fly northwest up the coast to the Texada Airport. The city below us is Parksville. With a population of over 13,000, it's well known for its large sandy beaches. The city's best-known annual event since 1982 is a sandcastle building competition held from mid-July to mid-August, dubbed Parksville Beach Fest. Beach Fest is the only World Championship sand sculpting official qualification event in Canada. We've seen these sand sculptures in the past, and they are nothing short of amazing. We're now over the city of Nanaimo, which sits about 100,000 in population. The original economic driver here was coal mining. However, the forest industry replaced it in the early 1960s with the building of the pulp mill. Today, the pulp mill is owned by the employees and local investors and injects well over $500,000 a day into the local economy. The largest employer here is the provincial government, but the service, retail, and tourism industries contribute significantly to the local economy. But I would say most people, at least in Canada, know this place for its delicious no-bake cookie bar. As you may have guessed by now, we don't have any cockpit audio on this day, so here I am filling in with voiceovers and music. Having gone down the coast and back, we now turn over the Strait of Georgia and make the 25-kilometer or 15-mile crossing to Texada Island. With Lasqueti Island in our path, the longest stretch over open water is 14 kilometers or about 9 miles. Texada Island was once a major mining and logging center and home to a reasonably large population. Its population has shrunk since the industrial decline began in the 1950s. Today, it's mainly recognized as an out-of-the-way cottage and camping destination. The three main settlements are Gillies Bay, Blubber Bay, and Van Atta, all located on the north half of the island. As we bring X-Ray Zulu Sierra into the mostly deserted airport, I realize it's a fulfillment of a dream I had when getting my pilot's license to explore some small islands and out-of-the-way places. We can also get a great visual reference on the 326-foot elevation drop down to the beach.
Found her. Would you be a rock if I'm a twister? Or a bed for her to be in while you kiss her? I know it's not just ordinary people who would sympathize. I know it's not just...
We park the plane and load up with water, snacks, and beach gear for our trek down to the shore.
Beach, baby. Gillies Bay.
Going to Gillies Bay.
Gillies Bay.
Got this little path we're walking down. We don't know if we're on the right path, but it's going downhill, so that's a good sign. After a 20-minute walk down a scenic trail filled with a surprising variety of vegetation, we made it to the shore, spread out our beach blanket, and hung out for a few amazing hours. The rocky beach was rugged, unspoiled, and beautiful, and the best part was, we had it all to ourselves. The size of this. It's a lot harder to go back up.
There's the windsock. Woohoo! We made it.
I've searched everywhere to find her. Searched everywhere. Is she a dream or in reality? Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. I'm not the man I once was. I'm drifting like a ship that's lost at sea. When I close my eyes, she's all I see. I can't find no remedy. My heart's a villain in my chest. She made a cardiac arrest. Oh, medic man down March, got a serious injury. It's ripped to pieces in my chest. Oh Lord, medic, what can you do? This is some serious witchery. She's my only antidote.
The small community below us is Gillies Bay. It's home to about 450 permanent residents and more than twice that number of part-time residents and visitors during the summer months. Gillies Bay also serves the wider Texada Island community. It's home to the island's medical clinic, RCMP detachment, community hall, library, senior center, and a well-established stock general store. Many permanent residents here work at one of the 3 active quarries that supply more than 90% of all limestone used in concrete manufacturing and construction aggregate on BC's lower mainland. Other residents include retirees, artists, and artisans. A significant number of new residents are professionals who perform their jobs from remote.
Mars got a serious injury. It's ripped to pieces in my chest. Oh Lord, medic, what can you do? This is some serious witchery. She's my only antidote. Oh.
We are now passing over Lasqueti Island. It's sparsely populated with only 425 permanent residents and is one of the least developed of the major Gulf Islands. Its roads are mostly unpaved, and it's the only one of the larger Gulf Islands that is not connected to the power grid. Solar, wind, microhydro, and fossil fuel generators are used to power the island. There is a hotel and a restaurant in False Bay where the ferry arrives, and there are at least 3 B&Bs on the island. It has a yearly arts festival on Canada Day weekend, as well as other yearly activities. These different festivals and informal activities feature local painters, sculptors, poets, fiction writers, and historians. The island has a reputation for sailing and sea kayaking, which is considered some of the finest. However, with the tides and currents, which can become foreboding without warning, it's among the most challenging in lower British Columbia.
Close your eyes, hear the voice within, calling this heavy load got under your skin. Hauling, you got the white knuckles holding on it tight, keeping your feelings bottled up inside, heading for collision and denial. To really live, you gotta die. Breathe in, breathe out. Hey, come alive. Breathe in, breathe out. Look at the colors, colors, colors. Right. Moments pass, make this one count. Untie. You're so good at dragging yourself down. Why? Well, there ain't much time left to figure things out. Deep underneath all the laser, your doubts. There's a heart gone out of rhythm in despair. Hell underwater, fine for air. Breathe in, breathe out. Hey, come alive. Breathe in, breathe out. Look at the colors, colors, colors around,
Thanks so much for joining us on this adventure. With life so filled with productivity and busyness, we genuinely cherish these brief times of exploring, adventuring, relaxing, and having the time to just sit and appreciate a beautiful sunset at the end of an incredible day. If you're so inclined, click the thumbs up and leave us a comment. We'd also love to have you subscribe. In our next episode, we'll fly to the western side of the island to the Tofino Airport for what is by far the most breathtaking scenery we've ever flown over. It takes us to the shore of the open Pacific Ocean. We'll see you then.